Hello, folks out there in YouTube land. Got a very interesting show set up for you today. Yep, it looks like Lane is trending to Florida. This is not looking good for the Ole Miss Rebels. And of course, there's going to be a big Kiffin Bowl Saturday at 7 o'clock. Florida's heading to Ole Miss. This is going to be a clash of fan bases. And for the Florida fans heading to Ole Miss, do not expect a hospitable environment, because you have mistreated them. You've disrespected Ole Miss fans to no end. You are mean girls.
Honey, look around you. To everyone here who matters, you're vapor. You're spam. A waste of perfectly good yearbook space. Nothing's gonna change that.
You just take whatever you want. You're gonna go in there and take their coach, show them no respect at all, and it looks like you may very well do that. This is getting very interesting. This is a story on SI for Ole Miss Rebels. It talks about the $72 million coach climbs the top of Florida Gators favorites. And we already know that Florida is offering somewhere around $13.5 million per year for Lane Kiffin. That was reported by Gator Bait, Buddy Martin, who is an original journalist. He's an OG. He's been down there covering the Gators since the 70s. And if he says it, you can probably believe it. And it's also been reported that LSU's around $14 million a year, but LSU's got problems. They're getting sued by Brian Kelly over the money that they owe him. They've offered him $30 million. He wants $43. I may cover that in another video.
Where's my money? Where's my money? Yeah, you got money to pay for fake mustaches, huh?
But it's getting ugly down there. So I'd almost put them out of the running for Lane, because if they're not willing to pay their buyout and they're talking about removing him for cause, I doubt Lane and Jimmy Sexton want to go down that road. So it's probably either Florida or staying at Ole Miss. Now, I think he should stay at Ole Miss for obvious reasons. He's already proven he can win there. He's, 9-1 now? But Lane's a job jumper. He always has been. Now, let's take a look and see what they're saying in this article. And again, this is an Ole Miss article, so you would expect they're going to be not thrilled. Kiffin was asked about his future at Ole Miss. He said, "I don't know. I'm not that far down the road. I said it last week, and you guys think I was joking. Everybody wants to talk about other jobs and everything. I think you are 2 or 3 weeks away from coaching for your own job." Now, he's right about that. You lose a few games, and you're gone. James Franklin lost 2 games up there at the Big Ten, games he should not have lost, and they jettisoned him. And that guy was averaging 11 wins a year and made it to the semifinals of the playoffs last year. And then you saw Brian Kelly get fired at LSU. He was averaging about 9.5 wins a year, was 5-3 this year, gone. So he's probably right about that. But anyway, that's just a way for him to sort of get out of the question. He said, "So you better make sure you're doing really well where you are." And he said, "I ain't figured that out yet. I'm trying to keep our winning streak, get to 8-0 at home." Now we're going to talk about the betting odds. Bet Online, Kalshi, and all that. They've all got Kiffin leaning towards being Florida's new coach. As a matter of fact, Kalshi's got it at 60%, that's way up there. It was around 50, it was around 30 or 40, then it went to 50, now it's 60. And one of the reasons is because Lane was talking about great programs and good jobs and all that, and he brought up Heisman's, national titles, big stadiums, and having a lot of talent in the nearby area. Well, Florida's got all that, and Ole Miss really doesn't, if we're being honest. And then Bet Online's got Lane Kiffin at -300, so a big favorite, then Eli, James Franklin, Jed Fish, and Jeff Braun. Now, I will tell you, when I want to keep up with the Florida Gators, one of my favorite places to go, and I've got multiples, I really like to keep up with High Top Sports, Locked On Gators, and then, of course, Alley Peak. There are others down there. See, Florida's a lot like Tennessee. They've got a huge fan base. They're rabid, even though they've been down for years, just like Tennessee was before Josh Heupel. It doesn't matter. They still care deeply. And they have great coverage. They have really good coverage on YouTube, in print, on TV, all of that. Very similar to Tennessee. So they're all over this hire. And I was watching High Top Sports yesterday, and they brought up something that I thought was incredibly interesting. It was an interview with Chris Lowe on a radio show in Nashville. And Chris Lowe's buddies with Jimmy Sexton. Of course, Jimmy Sexton is Lane Kiffin's agent, along with, good grief, Jimmy's got James Franklin, Kalen DeBoer, of course, Kiffin, Dabo Sweeney, Dan Lanning, Steve Sarkeesian, Josh Heupel, and so on and so forth. Just dozens and dozens. Jimmy is the agent to the Stars, and he's very responsible for these crazy salaries that these coaches are getting. And we're getting ready to have the market reset by Florida. And so when anybody in Florida or LSU starts complaining about ticket prices and how the middle-income folks or low-income folks can't bring their kids to a football game anymore and experience that like they did when they were kids and their parents took them, I don't want to hear any of the folks that are screaming for Lane Kiffin complaining about ticket prices. You are the cause of this. You are the cause.
Message.
So when tickets are, instead of $40, they're $150, you know why, because you had to have Lane. Now listen to what High Top talks. This is Shelton, and I believe this guy's called the Professor. I'm starting to warm up on him. He brings a lot to the table too. These two guys are good together. But here he talks about the radio show, Chris Lowe, and really some insider information.
Called the Bill King Show. And he does a phenomenal job explaining the situation here. So I really don't need to explain much of who this is, what the importance of it is. And I think this guy kind of nails it on the head of, like, he had his reasons to believe that why Lane wasn't coming. He explains the whole thing. So I really don't need to say much at all, to be honest with you. So let's go ahead and we'll play it.
I have thought the entire time that he's not leaving Ole Miss until Chris Lowe was on a Knoxville radio show last week. And just to put in perspective, I've known Chris real well since he was at the Rock Hill Herald, trying to work his way out of that town in South Carolina. Chris is the guy of all the media members on the planet who can get to Nick Saban for stories when he was at ESPN or breaking stories like he's going to retire, because Chris is close with Jimmy Sexton. And just to put that in perspective, I was with Chris the night in a bar where he met Jimmy Sexton, and all that got started. Now, let me add to the story. In that same mix is Lane Kiffin. Lane Kiffin is close with Chris Lowe because of Sexton, because of Saban. Lane Kiffin is going to have stories leaked when he needs them through Chris Lowe. When Chris Lowe said on a radio show, I don't think Lane is going to be at Ole Miss, it caused me to pause.
So a couple of little tidbits there that were, I mean, that guy does a good job, first of all, kind of laying the lay of the land. So Chris Lowe obviously being very well connected with everything. But again, I'm not going to just automatically jump on this bandwagon because of this clip. Like, I've been on it, but I've tried to be very reserved. I think there are a lot of people who are kind of like, it's Lane Kiffin. You know, you don't know how to approach this situation. But
yeah, Chris Lowe is one of those guys. He's almost like Pete Nakos and Ross Dellinger. If you want something out there, people are going to listen to Chris Lowe. They just are. And the fact that Lane would leak something out, or he wouldn't leak it out, he'd have Jimmy leak it out. Jimmy's the puppet master in all of this. And he's going to make sure that Lane gets – Jimmy wants $15 million a year. That's what he wants. The 13.5 is not going to get it done. The 14 at LSU, which I don't think is important, isn't going to get it done either. It's going to be 15. And I think Florida will gladly pay it. I don't think they have any choice at this point.
Temporary coaches, I guess, don't really know when do the dominoes start falling, Bill. I mean, you know, I'm of the, you know, I've gone back and forth with this Lane Kiffin thing, but based on the people I've talked to, and I'm not reporting this as fact. I just want to be clear about that. I'm just going to give an opinion because I've heard conflicting reports from both sides. But I believe that Lane Kiffin will end up at Florida. And then what happens from there, right?
Wow. Chris Lowe saying that. Ooh, that's pretty impactful. He's usually right about a lot of stuff. So that's got to get – that has a lot to do with these odds being so high, up to 60%. I mean, I still think there's a very legitimate chance he stays at Ole Miss, but that that takes you back a notch right there.
Wonder if this is kind of, again, the line moved dramatically, like stuff like this, like those are a little bit more, I would say, credible sources of just, I think that Chris Lowe one's a big one. Somebody who's very well connected, saying that, hey, I feel that Chris, mind you, didn't say that Lane would end up at Florida. He just doesn't believe that he will be at Ole Miss.
So, will he wind up at Florida? Oh, and by the way, that High Top Sports, I'm not a Florida fan, but I can tell you this much. If you are a Florida fan and you're not subscribed to High Top Sports, I don't know what's wrong with you. They put out great content, and they are on top of this stuff like you can't believe. Look, I give credit where credit's due. Anyway, now there's also talk that he might go to the New York Giants, of all things. And here's the thing about coaching in the NFL. Of course, he's got Jackson Dart up there. NFL can pay whatever they want for a coach. The highest paid coach in the NFL is $20 million. The highest paid coach in college football is $13 million. Now, the average pay in the NFL is $5 to $6 million, but there's a bunch of guys making well above $15 million. I believe Andy Reid is the highest paid, and this is on Sportico, by the way. Andy Reid makes $20 million a year. Sean Payton, 18, John Harbaugh, 17, on down the line. And you can see there's 10 guys making 13 or better. So money is not a problem in the NFL. That also does not count against their salary cap in the NFL. You can pay the coaches whatever you want. That doesn't touch the cap. So if the New York Giants want him, money will not be an issue. It's just, do you really want to bring in a college coach that has a little bit of pro experience? He was at the Raiders, but he got canned by Al Davis. And Lane's famous for the way he gets fired. He got fired by Al, which was an ugly scene. And then, of course, USC fired him on the tarmac at an airport and wouldn't even let him fly back with the team. Or maybe it was the bus they wouldn't let him on. Anyway, boils down to this. If the Giants want him, they can definitely compete money-wise. So here's the thing that Florida needs to be careful with. They're setting themselves up to where they'll either get exactly what they want, or if he decides to stay at Ole Miss and they pull, his kids pull on the heartstrings and start showing him videos and making him cry, and he stays there, you want to talk about a falling out at Florida. No matter who you bring in after that, it's a huge letdown. I don't know that the Florida fan base can handle it.
It's not true. That's impossible.
Search your feelings. You know it to be true.
Yeah, it'd be ugly. Yeah, so, they need to be careful. They need to be careful right now of setting that fan base up for disappointment, because this is not a fan base that's real level-headed right now. They're coming off years and years of suffering. Billy Napier put them through 4 years of grief. They're not used to losing, and it's been a decade of losing. And I really think that if they don't get Lane, it's going to get real ugly down there.
What am I supposed to do? You won't answer my calls. You changed your number. I'm not going to be ignored, Dan.
The only thing that's saving the athletic director right now is that the basketball team won a natty, which is, here's the thing about Florida. When they're down, they go down. They crash and burn. When they're flying high and they're front running, there's almost no team better at it. When they get going, look out. There is one exception to that, and that's the Tennessee Vols. They could lose to Ole Miss by 50. I promise you, when Tennessee shows up down there at the Swamp, they'll play the best game of the entire year against us. That is guaranteed. It's what they do. We need to get them down there and get that monkey off our back. It's been 22 years of losing at the Swamp, and I'm sick and tired of it. I know we don't play there every year, and we have beaten them the last 2 times at Neyland, but that's not anywhere near enough. We got to take them down there. And if they get Lane, woo, man, you want to talk about a battle. When we play Florida in the future, if they get Lane, Josh Heupel versus Lane, oh, Clash of the Titans. And when he comes to Neyland, will we have a reception for him? You might as well go ahead and start buying cases of French's mustard. So anyway, that's the latest update on Lane. It looks like he's leaning pretty, that Chris Lowe thing, that's substantial. I think that 60% is correct. Ole Miss, y'all don't deserve this. You really don't. You have done nothing but treat that guy like gold. You don't deserve any of this crap. He should just sign the extension and stay down there, but you may end up being very sad when this is over. And I'm not rooting for that, just so you know. But it is not your fault.
It's not your fault. I know. It's not your fault.
Yeah, it's going to be very sad down there. But I'll tell you what you need to do. Go get Alex Golish. Very good offensive coordinator for Tennessee. He's killing it down there at USF. He's already beaten 2 top 25 teams this year. He's doing a great job. You can get him for $6 million a year, sign him to a 5 or 6 year deal, and pay a reasonable amount and get a great coach. So that would be what I would do if I were you. Anyway, if you like this content, be sure to hit that like button. Let's continue to cover all these big college sports stories. If you've not subscribed, boom, boom, and boom. Hit that little button right there. It will not cost you a dime. Help you get my videos. And right over here is the most recent video YouTube thinks you'll enjoy. And we'll see you next time on Sports Talk J.
My disappointment is immeasurable, and my day is ruined.